Hello students, welcome again to the new segment. In this segment, we will be looking at some more information regarding the table. Remember that the table data type is very frequently going to be used within our course. So that's why I've created this lecture in order to elaborate a little bit more on the table data type. So in the last lecture, we have seen how we can read the table, how we can grab the data from the internet and then read it into some variable, right? So we have read it into the variable t, which is of type table. So the first thing that we may want to do is that we may want to select certain rows from this table. So we can use the colon operator, and then with the colon operator you can actually do a lot of different selections, right? So in this case I want to select the alternate rows. That is, I want to select row number 1 and then row number 3 and then row number 5 and so on. So if I want to do that, I need to mention an additional argument over here and an initial point and then the ending point. So these two are representing the initial point and then the ending point. That is, start from row number 1 and then skip alternate rows and then go up to the end. So it will select the alternate rows. That is row number 1, then row number 3, then row number 5, and so on. So if we display certain instances of this, so you may note this. So let's display t as well. So let us look at it. So this was the result of t, right? So in t we may look at that the first row contains 2.5, and then the second row 4.9 and the third row 4.7. So it will skip the row having value of 4.93 and so on. It will select 2.5 and 4.7, right? 2.5, 4.7. So 4.9 row has been skipped over here. Similarly, you can select different columns. If you are not interested in all the columns, you can mention that please give me only the column number 5, right? So which represents the class names and represent all the corresponding rows. So this way you can grab the class labels. And of course you can assign it to some variable. C, let's say class names, and then you can say t, just give me the final variable, or we can say end, right? So that will assign to this variable class names all of the names of the classes. Similarly, I can select rows from the end, and then I can mention a step size, let's say -3 and then up to 1. So what essentially it's going to do in this case is that it will go from the end, so it will pick the ending row, and then it will skip 3 rows, right? And then it will select another row and so on, and up till it comes to the ending point, that is the row number 1. And it is selecting all the columns. So that's how we can select different columns and different rows in different ways, right? And if I mention only 1 to, let's say 5, so then in this case I have skipped the step size, right? So I'm not mentioning anything in between. So by default it is going to give the step size equals to 1. That is, if we don't mention anything in between 1 and 5, so then in this case it is going to consider it as 1. That is, take out each and every row starting from 1 up to 5. So it would select the 5 rows. Similarly, I want to select row number 1 to 5, but only corresponding to column number 1 to column number 3, so then I can mention it like this. So that's how you can do some selection on top of the rows and top of the columns. Now the next thing is that suppose we want to change the order of the columns for just the sake of display. So how we can do that? Well, you can use the square brackets, and then you can mention the variable that you want to display at the position number 1. So I want to display the classes, right? So the classes is the column number for the classes is 5. So I will mention it as the first argument over here, which means that on column number 1 display the values of column number 5, and for the rest of them I just keep it the order, right? So the column number 2 will be our column number 1, and column number 3 will be our column number 2, and so on. So now when I press enter, it's going to display the class names first, and so on. So similarly, if you want to display the columns, the class names as your second column, so then you can mention it like this, right? Similarly, you can change the order of the rows, as well, right? But it's not very meaningful if we change the order of the rows. The next important thing that you may want to do is you may want to sort the rows. So by default, it is going to sort based on the first variable within the variable T, right? So our T is the table data structure. So the first column in that table data structure, it is going to use that in order to sort. And by default, it is going to sort in ascending order. So if you have a look at the result, so now it has sorted all the values based on the first variable. If you want to sort based on a particular variable, you can do that. And you can mention an additional argument over here that I want to sort, but I want to sort based on variable 2. Right? So when you press enter, it is going to sort now based on the variable called variable 2. Right? And additionally, if you want to sort in descending order, you can mention that as an additional argument, and now it is going to sort in descending order based on variable 2. Right? So we noted that the least value is the last value now, and it is in ascending order from the end, but in descending order from the top. Right? So the highest value in this column is 4.4, and then it is going in descending order. So that's how you can mention that. In case there are some ties, right? So we may note that now here there are some ties, 2.6, 2.6, and 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, and so on. So in such a case, if you want to have a look at another variable, that in case of a tie, please look to another variable, and that variable is, let's say, variable 3. So you can mention an additional criteria for that. And you can say that when there is a tie, and when you present all the variables in descending order, and when there is a tie on this variable, so then for variable 3, make them in ascending order. So you can mention something like that. And now it will represent the results in this order, right? So now if you look at the results, so there was a tie. Right? 3.6, 3.6, 3.6, and then based on this tie, we look at this variable, and now here the results are being in ascending order. Similarly, there was another tie over here, and when there is a tie, it conserves variable 3, and then it makes an order that we mentioned over here. Similarly, you can mention as many criteria as you want, okay? And that will be taken care of automatically. Finally, the read table data function, the read table function that we have used, we have seen that we have passed to it the CSV data type. If your data is in some other type, then you can also mention that. For instance, I have a data in TXT format. So then I need to tell to this function that what kind of delimiter I am expecting over there. And then it will use that delimiter in order to read the data from there, right? And then you need to assign it into some variable. So let's do a quick example on that. Remember that we have created our data and we have saved it under the name 1.csv. So let's make a copy of that. Or you can open it in the WordPad. And when you open it into the WordPad, you can copy this and make a new copy here, and then properly name it, let's say 1.txt. And when we open it, we can just paste it over here, and I will just try to replace the default delimiter over here, and I will replace it with, let's say, this symbol, right? And we can say replace all. So when we save it, now we are in a position to read it. And the delimiter here in this case was this, right? So when you press enter, it is going to read the same data for you, right? So this means that you can read data in any type. The only restriction is that you need to pass to it the proper delimiter, and by using that delimiter, it will read the data for you. So these were some of the more tricks and information regarding the table data structure. And of course, if you are more curious about the table data structure, you can consult my other course that is on, you can go to Udemy and then search for the MATLAB. And then there you may find my second course, which is specifically on the MATLAB. And here I have a lot of contents on the table data structure. So here you may find that. So I have more than an hour of lecturing on the table data structure, the table data type. So if you are more curious about that, either take this course or you can consult the corresponding help. And you may find very useful topics in the help, right? So you can click on that, and then you will find a lot of different information regarding this, the syntax, examples, the input arguments that you may try, and some more examples. So that's it for now. Hope you're enjoying the course. See you in the next segment.